I'm speaking to Ayabonga Cawe from iTech. And Ayabonga, we've been speaking about the volatile trade environment and the geopolitics that we're facing at the moment. How at risk is South Africa in terms of its position in the global market?
Yeah, well, of course, a lot of that would depend on the extent to which many of our destination countries for our exports put up trade restrictions to some of our products. I shared earlier with the audience that certain categories of subtropical fruit in the citrus sector tend to export a much larger share of the production they have, and primarily into the Eurozone, into the Americas, and also parts of Asia. And to the degree that some of those countries will put up either tariff barriers or even non-tariff barriers like sanitary and phytosanitary standards, that is likely to have a shock. And we've already seen it in citrus, where many producing communities in places like Kirkwood in the Eastern Cape are already facing some challenges regarding access into the Eurozone for our citrus exports, primarily on the back of, at times, non-scientific basis in the form of phytosanitary and sanitary standards. So I think the geopolitical situation does present some looming and ominous headwinds, and we are, to the degree we can do anything about it, quite worried.
There seems to be a big swing towards trade with Asia, especially now as we're facing the headwinds from the US. And it seems very positive on the one hand, but are there any risks with becoming over-reliant on a country like China?
Well, I think this is the point we've been making, that historically our trade flows, probably for the last 150 years, have solely been linked into the nexus of North America and the Eurozone. So we already have an experience of the concentration risks associated with that, because one shock, like in the Eurozone, effectively makes your entire business case, in the case of citrus, slightly untenable. So we're a bit worried about that. But of course, our reading is that the Asian market, if you think primarily about China and India, for instance, large populous economies where you still have massive opportunity to really get some of the products we produce here to consumer markets in those countries. And it doesn't mean that our traditional markets will cease to be on the agenda. I would imagine many people, in America and Europe really enjoy South African table grapes that come out of the Orange River Valley. And into the foreseeable future, it is unlikely that some of those sourcing relationships are likely to end. But I think the existential issue we're faced with at the moment is, how do you find new markets? How do you diversify where it is that you are selling into in a way that allows you to at least retain the investment, ensure that people get proper returns on their investment, and also that you ensure that people invest technology in their production to improve productivity, and in so doing create direct and indirect jobs across the entire value chains and ecosystems that produce this. And I think that's the one thing that South Africa has: deep vertical integration into many of the things that we produce. The feed that goes into the chickens we slaughter is South African. Many of the input material from a packaging vantage point that services the citrus sector is domestically produced. And so we are deeply worried about those kind of shocks and what they'll mean for those indirect and direct jobs across that chain.
Thank you, Ayabonga. I think it sounds to me like South Africa is in quite a healthy position, at least considering that the risks that we are facing, and that is at least good news that we are on the right track.